Hello, Mr. Langhorst here. We're going to get you started with notes on Unit 1, and we're going to talk a little bit about Jamestown. We're going to talk a little bit about the 13 colonies, but I did want to spend a little bit of time first talking about exactly why the English would be motivated to set up a colony across the Atlantic Ocean, and some of the motivations for why this is going to happen. This is really important to understand because part of their motivations are going to be a reason for some of their struggles early on. So let's start off by talking about European settlement in America. Of course, this is a picture of, everybody guess? Yes, Christopher Columbus, 1492. So since you guys have been in probably first grade, you've known that in 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue. But Christopher Columbus is not an Englishman. He's actually from Portugal, and he's sailing for Spain. And we want to focus on this particular unit on English settlement. So yes, there is some settlement, there is some exploration in America first, but our story is going to start with the English settlement and how the English are beginning to settle in America. So first let's talk a little bit about why European countries would even want to settle in America in the first place. Why do they want to set up colonies? This is going to be a very expensive endeavor for them. It's going to be very risky. It's going to have a lot of problems. So there has to be some reason why they would go through all these horrible things to create settlements and colonies in America. So first of all, you have the potential of wealth. You have the potential to find gold, silver. The Spanish in particular that are doing exploration in South America are finding lots of gold and lots of silver. And so the potential for wealth is there. Another motivation is natural resources. You know, think about the physical size of England. England is a relatively small piece of land, and they're going to need natural resources, things like trees and, you know, all the things that come from going to another land and being able to take those resources from the land, the mineral resources, the trees, those types of things. So that is a second motivation. A third motivation would just be overall power. So at this particular time period, the European countries like Spain and England and France, they are quickly gobbling up territories around the world to create colonies, to create settlements. And therefore, if you have all of these pieces of land around the world, it's going to extend the power that your country has and the reach that your country has. So motivations include wealth, natural resources, and power. Now, one of the terms that we'll talk about in Unit 1 is the concept of mercantilism, and that's kind of what I just described in the motivations. Mercantilism is the system in which European countries generate wealth and income from the colonies. So they're going to be able to get natural resources from those places. So for example, the English are going to be able to harvest trees and have lumber and stuff from North America. They're also, once they establish colonies there, they're also going to have a natural trade partner. So in addition to getting the natural resources, you're also going to have a population of people that are going to trade with the mother country. So this concept is called mercantilism. Now, the problem is setting up a settlement is very expensive. You have to have quite a bit of money just to get the people over there. Then you got to set up the colonies. You got to manage the colonies. So it's very expensive for a country to be able to set up a colony. So a lot of times what happens is a group of people will form a group, like a collective group of investors, and they will then sponsor a settlement. This is called a joint stock company. So very similar to today, you know, you think of like large corporations like Apple or Google, you know, they have stockholders. So people own very small pieces of the company. So you might own a piece of stock in Google, but you don't necessarily own all of Google, okay? Now, if Google makes money, your stock goes up. If Google doesn't make money, then the stock value goes down. So you have a group of people pooling their money together and then creating enough money so they can get a group together to go to America to try and set up a settlement. Now, one person that organizes one of the first English groups to go to America is a fairly wealthy Englishman named Sir Walter Raleigh. He wants to finance a new settlement. He doesn't finance the entire thing. He gets together a group of investors, but he is kind of the lead guy that gets the first expedition to try and create a settlement in America for the English. So Raleigh gets an official permission from the crown, from the king and queen. This is called the charter. So you can't just randomly just load up a ship and go to America, set up a settlement, and say that you're an English colony, you have to get permission and you have to get a charter to be able to then create a settlement. So that's the definition of what a charter is. So the English send a group to create a settlement in 1584. So again, give you a little bit of frame of reference as far as dates and everything. So 1584, they send a group, and this first settlement is called Roanoke. Now Roanoke has potential problems. They need to get some supply ships. They need to get people to then help them once they get established. And unfortunately, when the supply ship shows up, they find out that there's nobody there. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of where we're going to be talking about a couple of the settlements. This is where Roanoke is, down in what is now North Carolina. We're going to talk a little bit later in the next section of notes about Jamestown. Jamestown's a little bit further north, and it's located in what today is Virginia. So as I mentioned, a supply ship arrives in 1590 and finds nobody. Now I'm talking like nobody. There's no people there. There's a settlement. There's some buildings, but there's no people. And we don't really know to this day what happened to them. There's some theories. There might have been a storm. They might have moved somewhere else. They might have been attacked by Native Americans. But it's kind of an interesting mystery. We don't know what happened to all the individuals that created this first settlement. So later on, we're going to talk about Jamestown, and we're going to mention that Jamestown is the first permanent English settlement. And that's because Jamestown actually does kind of survive and grows. Roanoke is there for a couple years, and then it's gone. So we don't really consider it a permanent settlement. So in 1607, the English send another group to try and settle America, and this is the beginning of what we call Jamestown, and that's where we're going to pick up with our notes next time and talk a little bit about the Jamestown settlement. They have lots of problems, lots of struggles, but they do eventually overcome these problems, and they do become the first permanent English settlement in America. So that's a little bit about the motivations and why the English would want to come to America and create a colony, largely because of wealth, because of power, and because of natural resources. All right, we'll see you in the next section of the notes. Thanks.